Hi, I'm Joey Prey at the Prey Funeral Home in Charlotte, Michigan. Our family's been taking care of families here in our community for 100 years. And we've come across with some unusual ideas and some unusual requests. One of the things it seems most often people say is, I want to go out like a Viking. Well, they're thinking of the 1958 Hollywood version where they, at the conclusion of a movie about Vikings, they placed the star of the show after he'd been slain in battle on the deck of his ship. They sent it out to sea and they shot flaming arrows into the sail and onto the deck to set it afire. That was Hollywood. From my research, it didn't really happen that way. What I have found out was that quite often a ship was used in the burial of a prominent Viking, a chief, a chiefess, warrior. But it wasn't burned at sea. Usually they were filled, the entire ship was filled with, first of all, a burial chamber was built on it. That is where the person, maybe a slave, maybe some other members of the family who maybe have died in the same battle or whatever, were placed in a burial chamber, usually built very crudely out of logs on the deck of the ship. Then they would cover the rest of the ship with all the things the person might need for that trip to Valhalla. This ship is patterned after a ship called the Oseberg ship, unearthed in the early 1900s. They found a chiefess, one of her slaves, several carved beds, several carved wagons, and the remains of horses, cattle, and dogs, and other chests with other things that they might need for a long voyage. Where was their voyage? To Valhalla. Now in this case, and in most cases, these ships were buried in enormous mounds. There is one instance, probably the only actual recorded funeral service for a Viking, where they did all that and then they burned the ship and then buried that in a large mound. But that was done on shore. Other people have said, well, man, could we do that today? I said, well, I can't set anything afire on the Great Lakes or anything. There'd be too many people that would be opposed to that. But we have come up with options. This is actually built as a cremation urn. The burial chamber is actually built over a section where we could put the cremated remains. We could do this as a cremation urn. It could be used in a ceremony. We also have plans to make a large Viking casket in a similar fashion to this. But we could have all kinds of ideas, or I have all kinds of ideas for actual Viking services nowadays, whether it involves the regalia of the person, whether it involves some Viking rituals, which there are a few, but we have options. So next time somebody says, I just want to be buried like a Viking, I can say, I can do that. Joey Prey, Prey Funeral Home. We've been taking care of families for 100 years, and a few more, we hope.